When we talk about Greenland, many people wonder, is it a country? Is it just an island covered in ice? But above all, what does it hide that makes it such a coveted territory for the United States and other powers? Let's start by clarifying that Greenland is not an independent country. It is an autonomous territory under the control of Denmark. However, its strategic location between the North Atlantic and the Arctic Ocean makes it a key piece in understanding power in modern geopolitics. This island connects maritime routes that may become essential as the Arctic ice melts and opens new avenues for trade. Furthermore, the natural resources that are under its surface, such as oil, gas, rare minerals, and other very key resources that we detail below, are a treasure coveted by powers such as the United States, China, and Russia. So the question is, why has Greenland been so largely ignored in the collective imagination? Maybe it's because it seems like a distant, frozen world, or because elites are interested in keeping it unnoticed. But the truth is that its relevance is growing every day after President-elect Donald Trump expressed his desire to annex it to the control of the United States. This is how we see that its importance is not only for scientists who study climate change, but also for strategists who are charting the future of the global economy and politics.
Now let's look deeper into its wealth of natural resources, minerals, fishing grounds, and potentially vast oil and gas reserves.
We are already seeing that Greenland is not just ice and cold. In reality, it is a sleeping giant with natural resources that could change the economic and geopolitical landscape of the world. Beneath its vast frozen mantle, the island holds treasures that have sparked the interest of the great powers. But how valuable is what lies beneath this layer of ice that is so important now? Let's start with rare minerals, the same ones used to make smartphones, electric cars, and wind turbines. Greenland is home to massive deposits of rare earths, such as neodymium and praseodymium, essential for modern technology. With global demand on the rise, the mere fact that it has large reserves of these resources makes it a key player for the coming years. But there's much more. Significant deposits of uranium, zinc, iron, and nickel have also been identified, all critical to industry. Who could possibly be interested in all these riches, right? Now let's talk about fishing grounds, which represent a renewable source of wealth. As oceans warm and glaciers retreat, the waters around Greenland are becoming a haven for fisheries. Its shores are rich in cod, shrimp, and halibut, species that not only feed millions of people, but also generate significant income through exports. And here's the most intriguing part. Greenland could be a future energy powerhouse. Geological studies suggest that beneath its frozen surface and adjacent seas lie vast reserves of oil and natural gas. Some estimates suggest that the region could contain 12% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves and nearly 30% of the world's unexplored natural gas. This possibility has attracted the attention of energy companies around the world, but it has also raised concerns that only large projects could operate in the region due to high costs and the environmental impact that extraction could cause. However, since we know that the major powers interested in Greenland have more than enough resources to undertake the exploitation projects they plan there, the question arises: why has all this not been exploited yet? Another major challenge is Greenland's extreme climate and geographic isolation, which make resource extraction and transportation expensive and complicated. It also has very few manpower, and getting trained personnel there poses another major problem. However, this is certain, and the great powers also know it, that with the advance of technology and accelerated melting of ice due to climate change, the barriers to accessing these resources will decrease. What is clear is that Greenland has the potential to transform itself from a remote and little-known territory into a central hub in the global economy. But this raises other important questions. Who will control these resources? Will the Greenlandic people benefit, or will they be exploited by foreign powers? And most importantly, at what environmental and social cost? Greenland's wealth is a two-sided coin, a promise of economic prosperity and a warning about the risks of unsustainable development. Stay with us as we explore how this frozen corner of the world could become the next great geopolitical battleground.
If you are enjoying the video, please leave us a like and help us by subscribing to the channel and activating notifications so you don't miss anything every time we upload a new video. Keep going. Greenland, home to a small population with a very distinctive culture.
Although Greenland is primarily known for its vast, frozen landscapes and natural resources, few people know that it is also home to a small but deeply unique community. With a population of approximately 56,000 people, Greenland is one of the least densely populated places in the world. But what it lacks in numbers, it makes up for in a rich culture that has stood the test of time and extreme conditions. The majority of the inhabitants are Inuit. These people belong to the indigenous peoples of the Arctic, originating from regions such as Greenland, Canada, and Alaska. They are known for their deep connection with nature, their ability to adapt to extreme climates, and their rich culture based on hunting, fishing, and ancestral traditions. They are descendants of people who arrived in the Arctic thousands of years ago. For generations, they have developed a lifestyle that makes the most of what nature has to offer, from hunting seals and whales to fishing in the cold Arctic waters. But their culture is not just about survival. It is also about art, spirituality, and connection to the land. Hand-carved masks, guttural chants, and kayaks, invented by the Inuit, are examples of how this community has left its mark on the world. Despite its apparent isolation, Greenland has a vibrant cultural legacy that mixes ancient traditions with modern influences, thanks in large part to its historical relationship with Denmark. The main city, Nuuk, is an example of this cultural mix. Here, modern government buildings sit side by side with colorful traditional houses. In its museums and cultural centers, one can find stories of resilience and creativity that show how this people have maintained their identity despite global changes. However, life in Greenland is not easy. Isolation, extreme weather, and lack of economic resources have led to social and economic challenges, including high unemployment rates and mental health issues. But even in the face of these difficulties, the spirit of the Greenlandic people remains unbreakable. What makes Greenland special is not just its vast landscape, but the resilience of its people and their ability to adapt to change while maintaining their cultural roots. This unique connection between nature and community is something that cannot be found anywhere else on the planet.
Its potential for new shipping routes opening up across the Arctic Ocean.
Imagine a future where ships carrying goods between Asia, Europe, and America do not have to travel the long and costly routes of the Suez Canal or Cape Horn. This future is no longer so far away, and Greenland plays a key role in making it a reality. As climate change accelerates the melting of Arctic ice, new shipping routes are emerging, and Greenland, with its strategic location, is becoming an essential transit point. These routes, such as the Northwest Passage and the Northern Sea Route, could significantly shorten distances between major global markets. For example, a direct route through the Arctic could reduce the travel distance between Europe and Asia by 40%, saving time and fuel. This has massive implications for global trade. Transportation costs, one of the biggest expenses in the supply chain, could be drastically reduced. Companies and countries are already looking at how they could take advantage of these routes to move products faster and at a lower cost. But it's not just about efficiency. These new routes also raise a strategic question. Who will control them? Greenland, as an autonomous territory under Denmark, is currently at the center of a geopolitical struggle for influence in the Arctic. Powers such as Russia, the United States, and China are investing in technology, infrastructure, and military presence to secure a dominant position in these waters. Greenland, with its strategic location between the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans, has the potential to become a key port for resupply and management of maritime traffic. However, developing these routes is not without its challenges. The Arctic remains a harsh environment with extreme temperatures, unpredictable storms, and the constant threat of floating ice. There are also growing concerns about the environmental impact. More shipping could mean more carbon emissions and a higher risk of oil spills, severely affecting Arctic ecosystems. Despite these challenges, the prospect of faster and more profitable routes is too attractive to ignore. Countries such as Canada, Norway, and Russia are already investing in infrastructure such as ports, icebreakers, and advanced navigation systems to capitalize on this shift. Greenland, with its proximity to these new routes, has the opportunity to become a central hub for this emerging trade. The opening of these routes will not only change global trade, but also international politics. Who will control these strategic waterways? What role will Greenland play in this new geopolitical map? These are the questions that will define the coming decades as the Arctic ceases to be a frozen frontier and becomes the epicenter of a new era of global shipping.
Territorial disputes, growing interest in resource exploitation as ice retreats.
The Arctic, a region that for centuries was seen as an inaccessible frozen wilderness, has become the center of an intense global power game. And Greenland is at the heart of this competition. Why? Because as the ice retreats due to climate change, what was once inhospitable terrain is now revealing riches and strategic opportunities that are attracting the world's biggest powers. First, let's talk about territorial claims. In the Arctic, traditional borders are no longer enough to determine who controls what. Under international law, countries can lay claim to parts of the seabed beyond their exclusive economic zones if they can prove that these areas are an extension of their continental shelf. This technicality has led to a race to define who has rights to vast areas of the Arctic, including those near Greenland. Russia, for example, has filed extensive claims covering almost half of the Arctic Ocean, backed by geological surveys and icebreaker deployments. Denmark, on behalf of Greenland, has also filed similar claims that overlap with those of Russia and Canada. This has led to diplomatic tensions and an increased military presence in the region. But it's not just about maps and imaginary lines. What's really at stake are resources. As the ice retreats, estimates suggest the Arctic could hold 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and nearly 30% of untapped natural gas. Greenland, with its strategic location and access to these resources, is a key flashpoint in this dispute. As well as oil and gas, the melting ice is revealing deposits of critical minerals, including rare earths, essential for modern technology. Countries such as China are already investing in mining projects in Greenland, raising concerns in the West about Beijing's growing influence in a strategically vital region. These disputes are not just playing out in diplomatic offices, they are also playing out on the ground. The presence of Russian icebreakers, increasing military bases, and joint exercises in the Arctic have intensified the competition. The United States, for its part, has singled out the region as a national security priority and has increased its naval and diplomatic presence in the area. Meanwhile, Greenland finds itself in a complex position. As an autonomous territory of Denmark, it seeks to benefit from the exploitation of its resources to boost its economy, but faces the challenge of balancing this with protecting its fragile environment and respecting local communities. What is clear is that the Arctic, and Greenland in particular, are becoming a chessboard where economic, strategic, and environmental interests are at stake that could define the future of the planet.
Greenland, possible base for military operations in the Arctic region.
Greenland, with its key location between North America, Europe, and the North Pole, is emerging as a potential epicenter for military operations in the region. But what is it about this island that arouses such military greed in the world's major powers? First, let's talk about its strategic location. Greenland is in a prime position to monitor maritime and air traffic crossing the Arctic. As new shipping routes open up, this region could become a vital crossroads for global trade. Controlling Greenland means having an advantage in monitoring and potentially controlling these routes. Moreover, the island offers an ideal platform for military operations due to its proximity to Russia, one of the most active powers in the Arctic. Russia has deployed a fleet of nuclear icebreakers and established military bases in the far north, raising concerns in the west. Having a base in Greenland would allow the United States and its NATO allies to balance this growing Russian presence and ensure security in the region. A concrete example of this interest is Thule Air Base, located in northwestern Greenland. Established during World War II and operated by the United States Air Force, Thule is the northernmost base in North America. Today, this facility is a critical component of the U.S. missile defense system, with advanced radars monitoring any potential threats in the Arctic. The importance of this island lies not only in defense, but also in satellite tracking and monitoring strategic movements in the region. But Greenland is not just important to the United States. China, though not an Arctic nation, also shows ongoing military interest in the region. In recent years, Beijing has attempted to establish its influence in Greenland through investments in infrastructure and mining, raising alarm in the West. A Chinese military base or strategic facilities in Greenland could dramatically change the balance of power in the Arctic. In addition, Greenland could become a key point for rescue and emergency response operations in the Arctic. With increasing maritime and air traffic in the region, the need for infrastructure to respond to accidents or disasters is more urgent than ever. A base in Greenland would not only serve military purposes, but also humanitarian ones, and this would increase the regional influence for the power that controls it. However, the establishment of military bases in Greenland is not without controversy. Greenlanders have expressed concerns about the militarization of their territory and its impact on local life. Furthermore, Greenland's relationship with Denmark, which still controls its foreign and defense policy, adds an additional layer of complexity to any plans for military expansion. Greenland is a key nexus between the military, strategic, and economic ambitions of the world's major powers, making it clear that this frozen island will continue to be in the spotlight for years to come.
The power game, China's growing interest in Greenland, seeking access to resources and greater influence in the region.
China, one of the world's largest economic powers, has shown a growing interest in Greenland. But what exactly is Beijing after in this remote, ice-covered territory? The answer is both economic and strategic, and the scope of its plans is beginning to raise alarm in the West. First, let's talk about natural resources. As we've seen, Greenland is home to vast reserves of critical minerals such as rare earths, which are essential for the manufacture of batteries, wind turbines, semiconductors, and other advanced technological products. China currently controls about 80% of the global rare earth market, but rising global demand is driving Beijing to seek out new deposits. Greenland, with its still untapped deposits, has become a prime target. A concrete example of Chinese interest is the Kvanefjeld project, a mine in southern Greenland containing large amounts of rare earths and uranium. A company backed by Chinese investors attempted to obtain the rights to develop this mine, but faced political resistance due to concerns about national security and environmental impact. This case reflects how China's interest is not only economic, but also strategic. In addition to minerals, Greenland offers infrastructure and trade opportunities. China has proposed financing and building airports, ports, and other key infrastructure on the island. While these offers could benefit Greenland in terms of economic development, they have also been seen as an attempt by Beijing to increase its influence in the Arctic. Port construction, for example, could facilitate China's entry into emerging Arctic shipping routes, allowing it quicker access to European and North American markets. Beijing also sees Greenland as a way to consolidate its presence in the Arctic, a region where China has no territory but has declared itself to be a near-Arctic nation. By investing in Greenland, China is seeking to position itself as a key player in Arctic development, both economically and politically. This includes its participation in international forums such as the Arctic Council, where it seeks to influence policies related to climate change, trade, and resource exploration. However, this interest has not gone unnoticed. The United States, which considers Greenland a strategic territory, has expressed concern about growing Chinese influence. In 2019, when Greenland announced plans to build new airports with Chinese funding, Washington stepped in, offering its own funding to prevent Beijing from gaining ground on the island. This move underscores how Greenland has become a sticking point in the competition between China and the West. The question is, how does this interest benefit Greenland? On the one hand, Chinese investments could offer significant economic opportunities for a financially challenged territory. On the other hand, there are fears that increased dependence on Beijing could compromise Greenland's autonomy and its relationship with Denmark. China's interest in Greenland is not just a question of resources. Rather, it is a comprehensive strategy to expand its influence in a key region. As Beijing continues to advance its plans, tensions between global powers over control of the Arctic will continue to grow. Now the question is, how does the United States respond to China's actions in this region?
The US response to Chinese influence and the potential risks to its national interests.
On the global geopolitical chessboard, Greenland is a key strategic piece, and the United States knows this very well. However, China's growing interest in the island has raised alarm bells in Washington, where it is considered that Chinese influence in Greenland could represent a significant threat to national security. Why so much interest and concern? First, the island sits at the crossroads of the North Atlantic and the Arctic, making it a key surveillance point for monitoring military and commercial activities in the region. The US has an advanced radar system at Thule Air Base, which is part of its missile defense system and monitors both Arctic airspace and possible missile launches from Russia. If China were to gain a greater presence in Greenland, it could pose a risk to these critical operations. Moreover, Beijing's interest in investing in infrastructure, such as airports and ports, has been viewed with suspicion by Washington. Although these investments are presented as economic projects, they could facilitate China's access to the Arctic region and potentially establish a permanent presence near emerging shipping routes. In 2018, a Chinese company attempted to finance the construction of airports in Greenland, but the US quickly intervened to prevent the project from going ahead, offering alternative funding to Greenland. This move underlined how Washington views any Chinese influence on the island as a direct risk. Another point of concern is control over strategic resources, such as rare minerals. The United States relies heavily on China for the supply of these critical materials. Allowing Chinese companies to obtain rights to Greenland mines could further increase this dependency, something Washington wants to avoid. On the military front, the Pentagon has said any Chinese presence in Greenland could be used for intelligence or surveillance activities. While China has no military bases in the region, Beijing's history of using civilian projects for strategic purposes, such as in the South China Sea, has raised concerns that it could do something similar in the Arctic. There is also a risk that increased Chinese influence in Greenland could weaken relations between Denmark, Greenland, and the United States, which would affect strategic cooperation in the region. Greenland, although autonomous, relies on Denmark for its defense, and any change in this dynamic could have far-reaching implications. Another key point is that China's growing presence in Greenland raises concerns about the impact on the balance of power in the Arctic for the United States and its allies, who view the Arctic as a region of strategic interest, and China's entry could further complicate already existing tensions with Russia in the area. Now, what will happen to the island due to the recent statements of President-elect Donald Trump?
Greenland's future, a crossroads of opportunity and uncertainty.
Donald Trump's interest in Greenland has resurfaced, and this time with greater force. During his first term, Trump surprised the world by raising the possibility of buying Greenland, a move that was initially taken as an eccentricity, but now seems to be part of a broader strategy to consolidate US influence in the Arctic. With his return to the White House, the island once again finds itself at the center of geopolitical attention, posing unique challenges and opportunities for its future. Trump justified his proposed purchase in terms of national security and economic opportunities. He argued that Greenland, with its strategic location between the North Atlantic and the Arctic, is essential to guaranteeing American defense in a region where competition with Russia and China is intensifying every day. He also noted that Greenland's natural resources, including rare minerals and potential oil and gas reserves, could become key assets for the United States. Although Denmark flatly rejected the idea at the time, the issue opened up a broader debate about the future of Greenland. Recently, reports have emerged suggesting that the territory might consider putting its political status to a vote, including the option of greater autonomy, or even a shift of sovereignty to the United States. This proposal, while still speculative, reflects Greenland's growing interest in determining its own destiny. With Trump in power, Greenland will face new diplomatic and economic pressures to align its policies with US interests. This includes potential investments in strategic infrastructure, such as airports and ports, that could be designed to bolster the US military presence in the region. While these investments could benefit the local economy, they could also raise tensions with Denmark and other international players concerned about Washington's growing influence. Another challenge is the perception of the Greenlandic people. The idea of a change of sovereignty can divide the population, especially in a territory where cultural traditions and connection to the land are central. In addition, the economic dependence on Danish subsidies, which represent a significant part of Greenland's budget, raises the question of whether the United States would be willing to offer similar support.
Opportunities for Greenland.
On the other hand, US interest could also open new doors for Greenland. Greater US investment would help the island develop its vast natural resources and diversify its economy, reducing its dependence on Denmark. Likewise, international attention would strengthen Greenland's bargaining power to gain greater control over its foreign policy and resources. In terms of self-determination, the possibility of a vote on Greenland's political status represents a historic opportunity. While full independence remains a distant goal due to economic challenges, an intermediate model, such as a strategic partnership with the United States, could offer Greenland greater autonomy while benefiting from American resources and security. With Trump back on the political stage and the Arctic at the center of global tensions, Greenland faces critical decisions. Will it seek to consolidate its independence by strengthening its economy? Will it accept a closer role with the United States? Or will it choose to maintain its historic relationship with Denmark? Thank you for joining us this far, thank you so much. And we invite you to leave us your opinion in the comments, as these questions will not only define the future of Greenland, but will also have profound implications for global geopolitics.